Now, for more on the calls for the ban on assault rifles, global affairs analyst Okenfe Lebarty joins me now on the news. Good to have you join us. It's great to see you in the studio. We've always spoken via Zoom.
Absolutely.
But these are very big issues. It's always been a very big issue in the U.S. Perhaps the first time it is really involving minority groups in terms of the Asian community. And we know that the Asian community has always faced, just like the Black community, African-American community, systemic racism. We saw what happened during the COVID-19. But in this particular case, they are both the victims and the suspect. What does this mean for that community?
Well, first of all, my heartfelt condolences to the victims and their families. I know they must be going through an extremely difficult time at this period. I think, though, what is clear with regards to gun violence in the United States, I don't even think it matters what communities they are from, whether it be Black, white, Asian, and whatnot. The fact is that there is an epidemic of gun violence in the United States, and that needs to be handled. Until Congress decides to do something about it, it's just unfortunate that this thing is going to continue. And at the end of the day, I think people have to sit back and realize, look, when is enough enough? How many people has to die for Congress to enact an assault weapons ban? And for one reason or the other, there seems to be no political appetite to do that right now. And it's just so unfortunate.
Why do you think there is no political appetite to do that right now?
Because one party in the United States doesn't want to do it. And that's just the plain fact. When I recall when President Obama was in office, when Sandy Hook happened, he tried to do something about it. Joe Biden has been singing on the top of his lungs, trying to do something about it. When they had the Democratic Congress, they've tried to do something about it, but the Republican Party has refused. And at the same time, they also have a majority in the Supreme Court who also do not have an appetite to do something like, something with regards to this. So it's just an unfortunate incident that is going to keep happening. And I think that, until the Republican Party decides to get their act together and say, look, enough is enough. We've got to do something about it. But with the gun lobby in the United States, they also do not have appetite for something like this. And the whole thing is just a mess. And it's just unbelievable.
That is just in California, the Half Moon Bay attack is the 37th shooting in 24 days, which means that in one day you've had more than one particular attack. What do you think it would take? Because now the Republicans are in control of this House. They are also now in control of, like you mentioned, Supreme Court. It means that they have some level of power. If they say no, it is no. And so what do you think is going to take when you also look at the comments coming from the California governor, Gavin Newsom, saying he's really tired of having to deal with these kind of issues over and over again without any political will to handle it?
I believe it was last year, the Supreme Court just expanded gun rights across the country. So you have states like New York and California and New Jersey that had an extremely restrictive gun laws. And the Supreme Court said, look, you can't have these laws anymore. Took them out of the books. I hate to sound so pessimistic, but the unfortunate thing is that nothing is going to be done about it right now. Perhaps in a few years, something may change, right? Perhaps the Republican Party could have an epiphany and say, look, we've had enough. Let's change this. And if memory serves me right, there was a Republican House of Representative member who was playing, I think, baseball in the park. And somebody came to him, shot him, and they said, okay, what's next? And they did nothing. So these are incidents that continues to happen, and the party has just refused to go with, with what the public is saying, that, look, we've got to pass some common sense gun reform. And now until they decide that it's time to pass some common sense gun reform and ban assault rifle, it's not just going to happen, unfortunately.
So is this, for the Republicans, is this really just about the Second Amendment? Or is this about financing? Is it about the base? What is it that makes them hold up? Because again, one would have thought that it would take Sandy Hook. I mean, these are children we're talking about, but nothing moved. So what is it that is making them hold on to this gun restriction?
I think it's everything that you mentioned. They have the gun lobby that is extremely powerful and makes a lot of political contribution to the Republican Party. They have a Republican base who also does a lot of voting and brings that power to bear on their membership, and so it's a little bit of everything. And unfortunately, Americans just love guns, and trying to take it away from them is going to take an act of God, unfortunately.
And unfortunately, more guns haven't brought and more security, because that's the idea people have. I need to protect myself. More guns haven't brought more security.
It doesn't.
But I want to sort of move away from this conversation, because there is another conversation has become more like almost becoming the norm in the U.S. And of course, and we would have thought that the democratic system in the U.S. is set and some sort of example for the world to follow. But we're seeing that more and more ex-officials and former officials have classified documents in possession. President Biden has said he's not aware of those documents. He doesn't know how they got there. Right. But the latest is former Vice President Mike Pence. How do you react?
When your term as the president or the vice president is concluding, right? There is a set period of time. A lot of things need to happen at the same time. But meanwhile, some of the officials still continue to do their daily work and their responsibilities. And as they are doing those work, a lot more documents are being generated, right? That they have to see in terms of briefings and briefing them on some of the other meetings that they have to make. And then there's also coordination with the National Archives to coordinate and say who's moving the boxes, where the boxes being moved to. As these processes are ongoing, the president are not necessarily in charge of this process, right? It's potentially up to a low-level staff who's packing these documents, and of course, things are getting lost in the shuffle. I do believe that when President Biden said that he had no idea how to get there, I do believe him. When Vice President Pence said he had no idea how those documents got there, I also do believe that.
And I just know for President Trump you don't believe him. But I wanted to ask you, because I have just like a minute more. Do you think that more classified documents will be found in the homes of more former officials?
The possibility is there. Quickly, and I know the time running out. I remember when VP Biden was in his office, he thought that he was spending his last 30 years of public service. And so it was just a phrasing last week of events and officials from around the world that he had to meet. As many of those officials, a lot more documents have been generated. And then as those documents have been generated, they had to be packed. And so, again, like I mentioned, things got lost in the shuffle. And if he hasn't seen this, he left the VP's office of 8 years ago, and if he never saw these documents for the last 8 years, so there was no possible way that he knew those documents would be there. So right now there's a process in place, and I think when that process has been exhausted, they'll realize that this was just a mistake, except for the other one.
Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for talking to us, Global Affairs Analyst Okenfe Lebarty.